I love this lady, Dr. Arikana. Is a Pan-African. Whatever she says, she's bold, she's fearless. She tackles what she want to tackle fearlessly.
Brain drain out of Africa started over 400 years ago with the children of Africa who were being taken out of Africa as slaves. Remember, when they were choosing which Africans to take out as slaves, they chose the fittest, the smartest, that who they felt would sustain and survive the rigorous journey across the Atlantic, followed by those who have left Africa in recent years in search of greener pastures, some running away from famine and wars. But the end result is Africans around the world are building other nations.
So there is this video. She talked about Israel. She revealed secrets of how Israel, why they need Africa. It's a very good video because we see Africa having all these resources. We see Africa being the great continent. We see Africa, everyone talk about Africa having gold, uranium, copper. Everyone talk about Africa being this and this and this. But again, at the end of that discussion, everyone talk about Africa being poor. At the end of discussion saying Africa, we have gold, the end, it ends with, we are poor, we are this, we are going through a lot. So I want you to watch this video of Dr. Arikana talking about Israel, and again we'll come back here and talk about what she has said. We react on it. We know what is the way forward. I am the Kenyan Beast, of course. Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Allow me to share with you briefly that in 1945, 13 Jewish men met in the library. They didn't even have a place to meet. This was soon after Holocaust. The ideas they came up with during that meeting were based on two facts, two realizations: that there was a need for them to unite, for them to speak with one voice when it comes to issues pertaining to them and their country. They also realized that their unity was useless if they did not back it up with financial resources. So that is all they did. They united. They said, we may not like each other as individuals, but when it comes to their Jewishness, when it comes to Israel, they stick together like superglue. They also pulled out their financial resources. If I may stop for a second, use Israel as an example and the Jewish people. The Jewish people own this little bitty tiny little piece of land, which is a desert. There's only 15 million Jews around the world. Compared to Africa, we have the largest landmass on earth, richest continent on earth, and over 400 million African diaspora. The Jews, their little bitty country that is a desert, financially, they control the world, whether you like it or not. When those Americans in Charlottesville were holding their tiki torches, talking about the Jews will not replace us, you never saw a single Jewish man on television complaining. They complain with their finances. Their dollars speak for them. Jews do not go and borrow money from anybody. They fund themselves. They're probably the most powerful people financially. Their money speaks for them. What did we do instead when George Floyd gets killed and many others were on the street? We make noise and that's it. If everybody that protested could put $1 and say, yes, we want to protest, but we're also going to do something about it, now we could get somewhere. We could get somewhere. Translate those voices into finances. Let's make that bridge. Let's create that bridge. Let's take a page from the Jews. Let's understand that as Black people, we are the most endangered species on earth. Let's also make a commitment that how long are we going to allow this carnage to go on? How long are we going to continue to be stupid? It's about the finances, my brothers and sisters. If we do not bring our finances together, if we do not understand that my $85 a month for a year is an investment in not only myself, but my children, my grandchildren, and generations to come, then who are we? What is the solution? Understand that the brain drain out of Africa started over 400 years ago with the children of Africa who were being taken out of Africa as slaves. Remember, when they were choosing which Africans to take out as slaves, they chose the fittest, the smartest, that who they felt would sustain and survive the rigorous journey across the Atlantic, followed by those who have left Africa in recent years in search of greener pastures, some running away from famine and wars. But the end result is Africans around the world are building other nations while we are allowing our beloved continent to languish or be exploited. The colonizers have been in Africa for centuries. All they have succeeded at doing is building infrastructure designed to do nothing but extract resources out of Africa. That's all they have done, and that's all they plan to continue to do. We're the only ones who can change that paradigm. And that means the African diaspora must wake up. That means the African diaspora must understand what is really going on and not understand Africa from the eyes of the colonizers, from the eyes of the media that have chosen to paint Africa as a diseased and dying continent in need of rescue. Let's understand our Africa as African diaspora. Let's understand our role. It's very difficult for African businessmen in Malawi, in Botswana, to think continental. They're struggling to make a living in that little bitty country with all the restrictions and the difficulties of reaching to the country next door, to then ask that same businessman to think continental. But the people who can help with that bridge, the people who are already integrated in a way, people who can come to Africa with an integrated mind, are the children of Africa in the diaspora. Like I said before, $1 million diaspora with $1,000, that's $1 billion. $1 billion is a lot of money. And then you take that 1 billion, let's do it a year in and year out. Financial resources, we need to pull our funds together. We need to begin to look at our continent as a continent. What do the market women in Africa need today? How do we begin to make it possible for a market woman in Nigeria to sell to the market woman in Kenya what she cannot find in Kenya, but it's in Nigeria? How do we begin to loosen those trade barriers? It's a level one. I'm hoping that the African Continental Free Trade Area can begin to address those issues. But looking at what we have right now, when you see countries still blocking borders, still making it difficult for Africans to travel freely around the continent, all of our challenges, if you begin to understand them, they all go back to the mind. We must open up our Africa. We need a single African currency. It's just that simple. We can't talk about the AFCFTA and still have 44 different currencies. We can't talk about a single Africa if we still have to carry a passport to travel around our country. We can't talk about progress within Africa if we still are having to fight all these various wars in the different countries as little bitty different military. Africa needs to truly begin to look at what are the needs of the continent. How do we move 1.27 billion people? Let's have a strategy for that. How do we feed 1.27 billion people? Let's have a strategy for that. How do we house? How do we clothe 1.27 billion people? That thinking outside the box is what's really going to give us the results that we desire. But as long as Togo is strategizing for Togo, as long as Djibouti is strategizing for Djibouti, we are defeated before the game even begins. And that's exactly where they want us to be. That's exactly where they put us with the Berlin Conference. And that's why it saddens me to think of 130 years later since the Berlin Conference, we're still suffering from the effects of the Berlin Conference. So again, our challenges, while there are many, there are challenges that we can address. But for us to be able to address these simple challenges, like border issues, need for a passport, single currency, single monetary policy, single stock exchange, basic things that we should just do automatically. It goes back to the mind because we get so divided. The French are coming in. If you're Francophone, so to speak, why do we even call ourselves Francophone? If we're Anglophone, look at ECOWAS and the ECO in West Africa. They can't come to an agreement on something that is so obvious and so terribly needed. I don't want to sound like a broken record. Our problem goes back to the mind. Our ability to solve our problems, it starts with the mind. I'm sorry to say, but it is saddening, it is disappointing, it is frustrating. And as a mother, you look at it and say, my children, what happened? Why can't we wake up from this slumber? Why can't we wake up and say enough is enough? We got to come together. We got to trust each other. And we've got to protect and defend each other against these invaders. How long are we going to continue to mistrust each other, to not believe in each other? How long are we going to continue to be stupid and continue to do the same things over and over and expecting a different result? Albert Einstein called it insanity. I would hope we can all look in the mirror and say insanity no more. Prior to independence, if you were colonized by the British, those are British companies. If we're colonized by the Portuguese, by the Germans, by the French, those are the major employers in your country. At independence, they just lay low, but they've never left. They're still mining. They're still running most of the industry. 75% of the minerals being traded at the London Stock Exchange are coming from Africa. So we need to strategize and see how we can get into manufacturing, get into mining, those pillars of development that are currently owned by the same people who have been oppressing us. How do we strategize to get ourselves into ownership of the pillars of development? Because we can talk all we want, but if we don't get into these sectors, we're always going to be noisemakers. I like to agree with Professor Lumumba when he says he doesn't blame the Chinese. The Chinese are taking advantage of our Africa because we are missing in action. I was talking to the managing director for the Zambian Development Agency. He said, Ambassador, every day I go to work, I have Chinese lined up outside my office. Not even Zambians are lining up, let alone Africans or African diaspora. So what are we supposed to do? We need development in our countries, but our people are not coming in to take advantage of the opportunities. That's one. The other issue is a lot of these contracts are contractor funded. And that brings us to issue problem number 2. So not only are we not organized in these meaningful associations, we also don't have the funding. Because if we were to be organized meaningfully, we could then pull our resources together. So we're defeated because we don't have the funding to participate in the bidding process for these contracts. So where are the opportunities? The opportunities start with the realization that where we are defeated is unity of purpose. Having associations that we can pull our funds together so we can realize that when we begin to compete financially, we can begin to take over those pillars of development within our countries. The way things are today, it is very difficult for us as Africans to get into those areas, those sectors, those pillars of development because we are defeated financially. We must understand that the one thing that was denied Black people around the globe, no matter where you see us, it could be in Papua New Guinea, it could be in Brazil, in Africa, in the United States, in Europe, in China. the one thing that we were denied is economic liberation. That was intentional. How then do we regroup and build our own financial nucleus? Because as long as we're still having an idea and going to them for funding, we're still enslaved. So it goes back to, how do we create those meaningful relationships? It goes back to what we are doing as ADDI.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Arikana talking about Israel, how Israel is flourishing, and yet they are living, maybe their area is deserted, not like Africa. And he talked about Africa, that she talked about how Africa can gain this. He said Israel are flourishing because they have unity, and this unity is backed up with money. Now, you see a lot of Africans, or you see a lot of Africans going to Europe countries to look for greener pastures. Our country is exporting muscles. Our country is exporting knowledge to countries. Young men are going to work on West Africa, or on Western countries, or Europe countries, but they go and work there, but they forgot to come back to Africa to make Africa great. They go and work there and they spend their money there. Africa will never see a bright future. Africa will never grow because we lack internal investors. The ones who knows the country very well, the ones who knows where to dig or where not to dig, the ones who knows where to walk and where not to walk, they are not coming back to invest in the country. Yes, we are getting investors from outside, but they don't know very well the country as those who left these countries as go. Africans in diaspora, this is somehow message to you. You need to come back. You need to invest to Africa. You need to invest to your country in Africa so that we can be great. Because the economy of this country, the economy of Africa, for us to be great, have to be backed with money. Because with money, you can even move a mountain. You can move a mountain. You just hire excavators. They dig the mountain. You move the mountain to another place. That's the power of money. With money and our resources, it can be great. But we lack the force because, one, we are not united. That's the one thing we need to do. And I want to show you, or I want to talk about the power of unity, or why Africans should unite. You see us talking about unity of Africa, unity. And you ask yourself, why should we be united? Now, this is the reason why. First of all, when Africa is united, we'll have that economic empowerment. Because unity will facilitate economic integration, enabling African countries to create larger markets, enabling African countries to attract investment and enhance trade through initiative like African Continental Free Trade Area. This is the power of unity. The market will expand, and we will attract investors, will enhance trade. Unity of Africa will bring economic empowerment. Again, collaboration of African countries, the unity of African countries to pool resources for development projects such as infrastructure, energy, and technology. We have cocoa, they have a copper. We have gold, they have oil. Our unity and our collaboration will be easy for us to maneuver within development. It will be easy for us to build infrastructure, because when we lack gold, we'll go on the other side. We'll do business with them because we have good collaboration. We have a unity between us. When we are united, we'll have political strength. For example, Congo is going through a lot right now simply because Africa is not united. Sudan is going through a lot simply because Africa is not united. When Africa will be united, and all of us, all of these African countries have this one collaboration, they will solve this issue of Congo very easily. They will solve problem in Sudan very easily. And that is the work of AU. Need to do that work of uniting African countries. But because we don't have that unity, we have political wrangles across Africa. Now, a united Africa can amplify its voice in international organization, influencing decisions that affect the continent. Our decisions right now are being made somewhere else, in Geneva, Switzerland, are being held in London, are being held in Rome, Italy. We do not have that power to make our own decision simply because we are not united. With unity, we'll have global influence. With unity, we'll have conflict resolution. With unity, we'll have sovereignty, whereby working together, we can protect the sovereignty of our countries. That is the power of unity. So we need unity to maneuver into political stability. With unity, African countries will have political stability. Again, we'll have cultural solidarity. Right now, we sell our culture, we sold our culture back, and we started gaining, or we started being influenced by the Western cultures. But having unity within African countries, we'll have this diverse culture, languages, and traditional. We will be united by common historical experiences and inspiration, fostering a sense of collective identity. We will have pan-Africanism, the psychology of pan-Africanism as a means to overcome colonial legacies and promote self-reliance. When we unite, we will have social development, because unity always allows the exchange of knowledge, technology, and expertise across nations. But we don't have that unity. That's why our knowledge is going somewhere else outside Africa. We don't have other. At the time I was hearing our doctors are in Tanzania, our doctors are in Uganda, teachers are in Kenya from Uganda. We're exchanging IT, we are exchanging knowledge, we are exchanging expert. It is great to be united. It is sweet, man. We will not have these wrangles. A house that is united, that house will have a lot of development. We need unity for that. Social development. We need unity to tackle issues such as health crisis, climate change, and poverty. This require collaboration. Tanzania is growing a lot of maize. Maybe Kenya, we have hunger. With unity, we can work together and see how we will balance this so that one country cannot suffer while other is. But without unity, a president from Tanzania will just stand and say, we don't want our maize to go to Kenya. We need unity for that. This unity will make sure that Africa is very strong. This unity will make sure that Africa has stand out. And then we back with money. A lot of people are going outside to work. They don't come back to invest. But when they come back, this is backing up. Now, our presidents, our leaders, some of them, they steal money here, go and invest outside Africa. Sometimes I wonder, how are you neglecting your home? It's a sad thing, but unity is what we have been singing since. It's what Pan-Africans need to sing since. Unity is a great idea. Just imagine Ghanaians and Egyptians united. With the GDP of Egypt, the GDP of Ethiopia, all of them united. Just imagine South Africa, Congo united, with how South Africa is producing gold and how Congo has these resources. And we'll have good infrastructure, we'll have good health, we'll have better education, our countries will be grown and people will fear. United of Africa is the weakness of these other West countries. They fear us to be united because they know what will come after us being united. So, I don't know what you say on the comment section. Do you support what Dr. Arikana said? Do you support the unity of African countries? If you do that, tell me in the comment section. And tell me what you think about the speech of Dr. Arikana. Tell me what you think about my reaction. If you love it, like, comment, share. And you can say thanks on the super thanks. If you want to talk to me, I have my email address, kenyanbeast1@gmail.com. There at description, my number is there. You can talk to me. We can exchange. We are Pan-African and we want to bring change to Africa. Until next episode, peace be with you.